Hey everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Chelsea Raineri, and today's guest is the founder of 4 companies, including Spudsy and Buff Bake, and is the CEO of Sprinkles Cupcake's sister company, Sprinkles Consumer Packaged Goods. Her products have been featured on The Today Show, Forbes, and the Food Network, and she recently launched a podcast called Hello Dreamer. Thank you so much for being here today, Ashley Rogers.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you guys.
Of course. So just to start off, huge fan of Sprinkles. I need to try these consumer packaged goods, and I've had Spudsy. So I was like, when I saw the packaging, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
So
amazing. Well, send me your address after this, and I will send you both Spudsy and Sprinkles.
Oh my God, the dream. Thank you so much. Okay, so just to get started from the very beginning, where did you grow up?
I was born and raised in Vegas. I moved out to California like 10 years ago in 2014.
Oh, wow. What did your parents do when you were growing up?
So my dad, I had a very Vegas-y lifestyle. My dad owned a chain of bars called PT's Pub. So a bunch of bars and casinos. He had like 40 bars and casinos. So I literally grew up like, I was like a not cocktail server. I was a waitress at some of them. I grew up in bars and casinos, basically.
40 is crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild.
He ended up them to Station Casinos, the family that owns Station Casinos. He sold them like 10 years ago.
Oh, wow. Good for him.
Yeah.
So what were you like as a kid?
A psycho. I was crazy. I didn't like school. I didn't go to school very often and got in a lot of trouble for it. I don't know. I just feel like I kind of always knew I wanted to like do my own thing. And that's kind of what I did, even from a young age.
Yeah. I love hearing stories like that when someone who's like super successful, like school's not the right fit for every single person. Like my husband also wasn't a huge fan of college, school, whatever. But I just love hearing the different path that people take.
Yeah, my brother definitely took a different path. He was like a fraternity and went to college. So I saw that whole like aspect in the life that he lived. But like we basically went 2 separate ways and it just was never for me.
Yeah. So after high school, you ended up going back to Vegas where you worked at Rehab, which was a pool party at the Hard Rock. So what job were you working here?
I was a cocktail server out by the pool of Rehab, which was like a very fun, crazy experience. It was like the first big pool party in Vegas. They had a reality show too. So I worked there during like the prime time.
Were you on the show?
I wasn't on the show. I didn't want to be on the show. Like the girls were crazy. It was like a very interesting situation. But as a 21-year-old, like I was leaving there like every single day with thousands of dollars in my pocket. Like I saw the why. I've seen a girl get tipped $100,000 chip before. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I saw imagine things. I know. Yeah, but it was a great experience. Yeah.
Well, how did this role inspire your first business?
I think this is the job that so I basically saved a bunch of money when I worked at the Hard Rock, and I saved up enough money to basically not work for a half a year. And I went on this 30-day European trip with my cousin, like all around Europe. And I would say that trip, between that trip and the Hard Rock job, like opened my eyes to like, I'm never working for anyone else again. But then seeing like just the life people lived abroad. I don't know. I'm just like, I want this life. It just like inspired me to just like come home and like figure something out on my own where I like, I don't know, owned what I did, you know, was my own boss where I could like create my own future basically.
Yeah. And was that Buff Bake that you started when you got back after that?
So when I came home, I actually started a meal prep company in Las Vegas, and I was making meals for like 250 girls on the Strip because like all these industry cocktail servers, they want to eat healthy, they work out a lot. So I turned that into my first business. I did that for about a year and a half. I sold it to one of my customers because I wanted to leave Vegas. And I took that money and I started my next company, which was a brand called Buff Bake. So I say Buff Bake was like my college experience because I never went to college, barely graduated high school. And it taught me everything that I needed to know about like working with business partners, sales, distribution, marketing, like how to get something manufactured, just like the whole process of starting and operating and running a business. And that is like I said, my college education, really like a graveyard of learning lessons because I started that when I was 24 years old. So I was young.
Wow, so young.
Yeah, I started it with 4 business partners. So too many cooks in the kitchen. It was kind of a shit show, but I'm so grateful for that because if I did not have like all of the tools and learning lessons that I learned from Buff Bake, I would have never gone on to like been successful in my next company, which was Spudsy. So in 2018, I sold all my equity to my business partners. I exited the company. I started Spudsy in 2018. And then I recently exited Spudsy 2 weeks ago.
I saw that. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
How did you come up with the idea for these like different companies? Like if you can kind of explain like what Buff Bake was and like what inspired that and also what Spudsy is and what inspired that.
So I guess food is my niche. So Buff Bake was a protein cookie and a protein nut butter. So like protein peanut butter and almond butter. What inspired it is like, I'm super into health and fitness. My first company was like the healthy meals. So the next company, I wanted to do something healthy and I wanted to do something that I could start in my own kitchen. Cause like, that's how I started it. I started it in my own kitchen, like making these little protein muffins called Buffins and then making this nut butter, this protein nut butter that we called Buff Butter. And then for Spudsy, so for me, whenever I start something else, I never want to be a Me Too product. I feel like the products that like really win at the end of the day, like are super innovative. And like these buyers don't want who you're pitching to. Cause like my goal is to get into retail, right? Like all these major retailers. But retailers and buyers, they don't want another Me Too product. They want to add value to their category. And then the way they do that is bringing in items they don't already have. So like, that's what I look for when I create brands. And I saw at the time the brand Hippies. Hippies, but they were they were just starting to get traction. They got nationwide Starbucks, which is a huge deal. And they created a chickpea puff. So I loved what they were doing. And I couldn't figure out like why no one was creating a brand that revolved around the sweet potato. Cause I saw so many brands popping up that revolved around weird vegetables that I didn't want to eat, like chickpeas and cauliflower and broccoli. And I'm like, why not sweet potato?
Right.
Yeah, it's actually an ingredient I used in my LV Lean Box company a lot too, was like sweet potatoes. So yeah, that's kind of how Spudsy was born. And I decided to create a puff because I feel like that category of the grocery store was stale. Yeah, so that's kind of how Spudsy was born.
Literally. And so back to Buff Bake though, was that sold at like 24-hour fitnesses?
Yes.
I freaking remember this brand. Before I became a Pilates fan, I was going to 24-hour fitness when I was like younger. And I remember getting those. They were so good.
Yeah, they were good. I mean, honestly, that company, like it's not in business today. I won't say it's not because of me, but I think it is because I was involved in it. But it really had potential. Like it was like right timing and everything. But again, that's like another learning lesson that I chalked up and I learned from, and I'm grateful for it.
How many iterations did it take for you of making things in your kitchen to get to that recipe that you were like, this is it?
It's funny. I literally would go on Pinterest and Google and just Google protein muffin or protein nut butter recipes and like just sit there for like days doing trial and error with my cousin. So I would say maybe not as many as you would think, maybe 20.
No, that's a lot.
Yeah, I'd always like find another recipe that I really liked and then we would tweak it and make it our own.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm like not a chef at all. So 20 is a lot. Making 20 different recipes is a lot to me. Really?
I landed in this making food for other people life.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that you loved health and fitness, but like what initially like triggered that? Like what started that for you?
Health and fitness? My dad and his twin brother were bodybuilders. So I was kind of raised like drinking protein shakes at age 14 and having a gym membership at age 15 and just around that lifestyle, like getting dropped off at the gym, like with my parents when I was kids, because they worked out a lot. So I think just the way that I was raised in a family that was like very big into going to the gym and health and fitness.
Yeah. And then the entrepreneurial spirit, like all makes sense. So then back to Spudsy. So you take the ugly potatoes, quote unquote, and then turn them into your product. So how did that come about? Like, how did you think of that?
Yep. So first I created the concept like Spudsy sweet potato puffs. That's the item that I knew I wanted to do. And we didn't have like a mission or like a give back with Buff Bake. And just having had been in the industry for 4 years prior to Spudsy and talking to other founders, I realized that like a strong mission really resonates with consumers and is like another reason why people invest in brands is like they have a strong mission that people believe in. So I knew I wanted that for Spudsy. And then it kind of just all, when I started sourcing ingredients, like the opportunity just kind of came about where my supplier was like, hey, like, have you ever thought about upcycling? And then it turned out to be my mission.
Wow. And so how does that work? Like, where do you get to the potatoes from?
So we got the potatoes from North Carolina. And how it works like is, so I solidified and I found a manufacturer to make my sweet potato puffs. And then they then put you in contact with like other suppliers of ingredients, or you source them on your own. And that's kind of how I stumbled upon them is like North Carolina is a big sweet potato. It's probably like the biggest state for potato and sweet potato. So I just found them there. And one thing led to another.
And it's so funny to me that like the ugly potatoes can't be sold in stores. But I guess like if I truly was like picking one out, I probably just naturally wouldn't pick an ugly one, which is so sad. Yeah, it's so sad.
It tastes the same. It's just like, and like when retailers buy products, like they are really strict about what they accept and don't accept. So like these ugly potatoes could have like a tiny like little dent in them and it would be non-acceptable. So they are perfectly good potatoes with like extra lumps and bumps that can't be sold to stores.
Yeah. And then you save them. So Spudsy is in more than 20,000 retail locations, including Whole Foods, Target, Walmart, Costco, and more. How do you go about like getting your products in these major stores?
Yeah. Well, one, I'm a big believer in people invest in people, and these buyers like really invest in founders, especially in these young companies. So for me, like, and I also believe like, I don't believe in the word no. So it's like, if you tell me no, I'm going to figure out another way to get it done. But I basically would just reach out to these buyers and I secured all the distribution. And then once I secured the distribution, I would then find a partner to help me manage the business. And if I could not get into a retailer, because there are some that like you just can't get into, I just found the right people to hire or the right brokers to hire to help me basically be the middleman between me and the retailer. And then eventually we got in. And then once you like build a data story, so like once you can say, hey, like it's working in Whole Foods, here's our data, that then gives you like more ammo with these other retailers because you're now like a proven concept.
Right. God, you make it sound so simple. And this is all stuff that you learned from when you were doing Buff Bake, or like, was there other like mentors along the way? Like, how did you figure this out?
Well, I mean, this is hundreds of thousands of dollars of learning lessons. So like just consultants and advisors that I worked with, or like me having the real life experience and going through like the wins and the failures. And like, you just learn, you just learn along the way, like what works, what doesn't, and how to do things. And I'm like a very big networker. So I believe that one conversation, like even if they might not be the right fit for what you're looking for, it's going to lead you to the next person who will lead you to the next person who will lead you to like the answer. So yeah. So you just kind of have to start and talk and figure it out.
Definitely. So as you mentioned, you sold Spudsy recently, or you sold it?
Yes, I sold it.
Wow. Okay. So how did you come to this decision?
So about a year ago, a little over a year ago, my investors in Spudsy, so I raised like several $1 million, in a Series A round with a group called Carp Riley. They were my lead investors in Spudsy. Carp Riley owns Sprinkle Cupcakes. So they came to me about a year and a half ago and they're like, hey, we want you to spin up the Sprinkle CPG idea. And basically, we want to create a sprinkles product that people cannot just buy in our 30 to 40 bakeries nationwide, but that they can buy in every retailer across the country. So I spun up this cupcake flavored chocolate idea, and it was a lot for me running like both companies at once. And Spudsy was basically to a point where I could sell it. So that's what I did.
So for entrepreneurs who are listening and maybe they're at a turning point in their company, at what point can you like be like, okay, this is ready to sell typically?
I mean, you need to have the revenue. So you need to have like the demand. I would say the revenue, the growth, and the EBITDA. So either you need to be profitable or close to profitability. You need to have the revenue and like the demand there. And you need to show that you're like on an upward trajectory of growth. Those three things.
Got it.
And I mean,
Wow.
a team doesn't hurt either. Like a solid team that can like either stay in the business once it's sold or like for a period of time until it's passed on to its new owners.
Right. And so this might be a stupid question, but is there a what are the similarities and differences between being a CEO of a company and then owning a company? I'd imagine a lot more emotion goes in the second portion of it.
I mean, it's weird because I guess I don't think of it like that because like, I mean, I was a founder for so many years, right? And like now I have transitioned to something that's not mine and I'm like a CEO. But to me, like, I guess I always have a founder's mentality. Like I always think of it as like mine. So I don't know. I've never really thought of that actually. Like to me, it is mine and I'm still building something that's like, I'm so passionate about. Yeah.
How'd you come up with the idea for so it's cupcake chocolate. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yes. So when the idea was presented to me, it was these chocolate bars and they had not found a manufacturer yet. They're just like, we want to make chocolate bars with the Sprinkles name. And I'm like, okay, like don't have a manufacturer. So I found them a manufacturer and I created the bars for them that they originally like had the concept around. We tweaked the flavors a little bit because we wanted them to be based off Sprinkles Cupcake's top selling cupcakes. Launched like red velvet, milk chocolate, a sprinkle birthday cake, and a salted caramel bar. And then me, like being the innovative person I am, I'm just like, okay, like this isn't different enough. And like once I started talking to buyers, they're like the bar category, like there's a lot of bars in the category. So I'm like, okay, like we want to do chocolate, but how can we make this even more sprinkles? Which is how the cupcake cup was born. So we also make this thing called a cupcake cup. They're in Target nationwide and soon to be Walmart nationwide. Think of like a peanut butter cup, like a Reese's peanut butter cup, but instead of peanut butter inside, it's cupcake frosting.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
We have a birthday cake one. It's like a white shell with a ton of sprinkles on top, which I love the crunch of it. And then birthday cake frosting inside. And then a red velvet with like a red velvet shell and cream cheese frosting inside. And then a double chocolate with chocolate frosting inside, milk chocolate shell, and just like, what's it called? Like Oreo crumble cookie on top.
Ooh. Oh my God. That sounds so good.
They're so good. I literally would just eat one actually. I'm so good about not eating the chocolate, but today I've been like on a chocolate, like I'm like, I need, and I'll take a bite of the whole bar. Like I'll take a bite and then I'll throw the bar away. And like with the like old food, don't eat it.
No. Oh my God. It sounds so, does it taste like, because the sprinkles like icing is so like, it's one of the few icings I actually like. I imagine does it taste just like that?
It does. Yeah. It's pretty similar.
Oh man, that sounds so good.
Like their cupcake.
Yeah. Ooh, okay, cool. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love sprinkles. I remember when they first came out in Newport and the line was like out the door for like months.
Yeah. When they did like the ice cream.
Yes, that too. Oh my God. The ice cream was.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back before I didn't need Lactaid. So this year you launched your podcast, Hello Dreamer. So can you talk a little bit about this and what listeners can expect?
Yeah. So my husband is an entrepreneur also. He owns a chain of health and fitness stores called Wholesale Nutrition Center. The closest ones like in Orange County are Costa Mesa by Triangle Square and Huntington Beach. So they basically offer like the best supplements on the market, like at a discounted rate. They really are like the best nutrition store around.
Cool.
But he's an entrepreneur and I do my thing and I like nothing's ever enough for me. So, I mean, on top of me running Spudsy and Sprinkles and having a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, I decided to start a podcast. Honestly, moving into this office, because I now have like this oceanfront office, it's been very inspiring. So I'm like, the ideas have been flowing, but it's basically interviewing entrepreneurs of like, I don't want to just talk about the good, you know. I feel like a lot of people like are frankly like full of shit and they only like show their highlight reel and talk about the good, easy things when like it's really hard to be an entrepreneur. So that was kind of the concept behind this podcast is we want to get into the weeds of like how hard it was to start and like, what did you do and how did you pivot and how entrepreneurship isn't glamorous. Like, we like making it more relatable, you know, and like the truth is like really what we do.
Well, since you brought that up, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've had to overcome as an entrepreneur?
I mean, there's so many. I feel like doing this alone has been really hard because I mean, sometimes there really isn't a lot of people to talk to that like are in the same shoes as you are, unless you talk to another founder in the same industry. So that's definitely been a hurdle for me. I mean, burning out and like work-life balance. Like I said, I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. So just like building a company while being a mom and having that guilt, like that's been a hard pill to swallow too.
Yeah.
Really everything, to be honest with you. It's hard, but it's like, I wouldn't do it any other way because I just love doing this. And I love living in chaos, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a blessing or a curse, but that's just who I am.
Do you feel like going back to when you're talking about the lifestyle that you saw in Europe and how you wanted that, do you feel like you achieved that?
Yeah. I mean, let me determine that when my kids are like 7 and 8 and I can actually leave the country again. But yeah, I mean, I think that I am getting there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay. So on your website, it says that you are going to start offering courses soon, as well as a mastermind and one-on-one VIP days. So can you kind of explain what these are and how people can participate?
Yeah. So I'm super passionate about helping like the younger generation of food and beverage founders underneath me. And I feel like a lot of these advisors and consultants, especially ones that I've worked with, like one, they've never been founders before. They've worked for other companies and I mean, they cost a lot of money to work with them. And I feel like no one has like laid out the step-by-step of like, here is what you need to do in the order you need to do it in order to launch a food or beverage business. So I created a course basically telling people exactly how to do that. And then I do a mastermind a couple times a year where I bring a group of people into essentially like this group. We have one call a week for 8 weeks. And I teach them the step-by-step and like really the 8 different pillars that I've defined to like launch and scale your food and beverage business. And then I do 8 VIP days a year, where I basically will have somebody come into the office and I will lay out their whole sales and marketing strategy. But yeah, I mean, just helping the younger, I guess, generation of food and beverage brands is probably what like my next thing. And it's what I'm super passionate about. So I'm excited to kind of be trickling in this while I'm still running Sprinkles.
Yeah. Well, as a snack lover, you're doing the Lord's work. So I'm really excited for all these new snacks to be coming about. Well, as you mentioned, what do you love about mentoring? Like, why do you feel that you want to do it so often?
I just love helping other people figure it out. Is probably the best thing. It's just like a good feeling, you know, like helping other people figure out how to do something. And it's like, I put in all this work and over the last 10 to 12 years. And I feel like I have like a skill set now that I like want to share with others.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I saw that you offer free resources as well as your website. So what do these include?
Yeah. So I built just like a couple blog posts, like teaching people how to do certain things in the food and beverage industry. So like how to build an investor deck, how to raise money, how to like a couple things like basically along the lines of how to launch or how to do things within the food and beverage industry that I just like offer for free.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
is there anything coming up in your career or anything that you would like to shout out for listeners to keep an eye out for?
I mean, Sprinkles is launching into our cupcake cups are launching into Walmart in February, which is really excited. And then we're launching into a couple big nationwide retailers next year. So basically we're going from just Target and Walmart to every retailer nationwide is happening next year. So you'll be able to find Sprinkles everywhere. That's probably the most exciting thing. And then I am doing a mastermind right now. So I'm enrolling right now for a mastermind that will start January 3rd.
Nice.
Doors, open on Monday and they close December 9th.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So what qualities or characteristics do you feel have helped you become successful as an entrepreneur?
Being 100% authentically myself. I feel like I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and I feel like a lot of people aren't, but like just owning that and being who I am, not only has like made me happier, but I feel like it's got me where I've gotten. If that makes sense.
No, I love that. And then what is one of the biggest myths of entrepreneurship? I saw this on your Instagram and I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, we would say on our podcast that it's glamorous and it's not. But I do think that is something to like touch on is, like I said, everyone shares our highlight reel and like how easy it is and them driving their Lambo and living in their freaking Newport Beach house. And it's like, it's not that easy. It takes like a lot of hard work to get there. And it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, you know? So I would say that it's hard, but I think it's worth it.
Definitely. And then lastly, what advice do you have for someone who might be apprehensive about launching their new brand?
To just go for it. Go for it. Yeah. You only live once. Do it. Keep your day job. In the meantime, start a side hustle. If it takes off, lean into it and quit your job.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Actually, I'm going to ask you, I'm going to add a 4th question to the Thoughtful 3 because you touched on burnout. But do you have any like tips or tricks of how to get out of burnout once you've reached that point?
I think to take a step back, I would take like a week off and just reevaluate like one of like what you're doing is worth it. You know, like if you're like what makes you happy, like what lights you up, and try to like go back into the world after your week off, doing the things that light you up.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like that's also sometimes like counterintuitive because when you're burnt out, you're like, no, I just need to do this thing and like keep doing it. But I love that, taking a step back. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I had so much fun getting to talk with you.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me on here.